Welcome to the Straightway Through with Gina podcast. I have a special guest here with me today, and we are going to get right into saying it straight with a topic that is surely coming up in your life for you in one or more relationships. What happens when someone you love, or someone you know, or someone you want to communicate with goes silent? I'm going to introduce you now to my guest, Dani Cooper. It is lovely to have you here. Thank you for being a guest on the show and for choosing this amazing topic, which is so relevant to so many of us. Would you like to introduce it or share a little bit of the common terms we hear out in society about the different types of going silent?
Sure. Yes. Thank you so much for having me, Gina. This topic is near and dear to my heart because I'm a people person and I love connecting. And the thing that gets in the way of connection the most when it comes to communication is when someone refuses to connect with you after a certain point. I don't know whether that's different situations are stonewalling where they just become like a stone wall, or they avoid talking to you, or sometimes it's just you can sense something has changed in the relationship and they're not communicating with you in a normal way. So I am someone who loves to connect with people and encourage people and find out what's going on, which is really difficult when no one will talk to you.
Yeah, and I imagine that feels sad and like you're being locked out. Is that
Right.
correct? Yeah. Okay. And my mistake, Dani. Please introduce us to you. So, who are
Okay.
you? Who are you in this world? Who is Dani Cooper?
I like to introduce myself as an encourager. I really think that people need encouragement just to do life. Life is hard. We run into difficulties one after another. Life is beautiful, of course, as well, but sometimes we need someone to remind us of that. By trade, I am a coach and I work with the Enneagram, teaching teams how to communicate, how to just be in relationship in ways that are mutually beneficial based on knowing yourself and the patterns that you have in your life, whether that's with communication or just dealing with conflict and a host of other things. I also think of myself as a nature person. If I'm not doing any of those things that I just described, I'm outside. I love to kayak and garden, and I love plants and animals. So that's a little about me.
Yeah, we have some great points of connection. I love nature, and I love to bring that nature into everything I do, even if it's not nature related.
Right,
Yeah,
it's all connected.
That's right. And so, what drew you to work with teens? I'm curious about that. Like, why teens?
Well, I think maybe I didn't enunciate well, and teams is what I meant.
Oh, teams. Okay. I thought you said teens. I was thinking,
Yeah.
wow, that's so interesting that you've gone back to those teenage years, which are really hard for so many
So
people. You
hard.
said life is hard. And I like that you said that, because one of the things that I always say to people is life is hard. And the reason I say that is because sometimes, whether you go on social media or you're out and about in the world, it's easy to think that life is easy for some people because of how they look or what they post or what they're saying. Even when you talk to people, you tend to talk to them with your best self. And if you're always putting your best self forward, people think, wow, life is so easy for them. Life is going good for them. It's hard for me. And that's why I like to say, yeah, life is hard. I get it. It's not just you. So I love that you said that, because I think that that brings us into that real space of the struggle of life. Yes, it's beautiful, like you said, but it's hard.
It's hard.
It's
Yeah.
hard.
I love how you said it doesn't matter how it looks on the outside. And social media is really good at giving us these pictures of beauty and perfection, and nothing is perfect. Every person
Right.
has their struggles that they're dealing with. And I think it's really important to understand that when we're communicating with someone, that if there's an issue where they're not talking to you or they're communicating in a way that doesn't feel good, there's always a reason for it, that there's a story behind what's going on for you in them as well.
Exactly. And we're going to get deeper into that story today. We are going to get there, but I'm first wondering, when did you realize life was hard? Like, when did it hit you, like, oh, life is hard?
Well, I mean, I could go back to childhood trauma, right? But I don't think you recognize you've had a traumatic childhood for a while. And then you're like, whoa, everyone didn't have an upbringing of this sort. I mean, I knew my parents had gotten divorced and that was kind of awful and were a lot of things. But I think when I started doing more self-awareness work, I think it showed me that there were some impacts that had had. I think we as kids are pretty resilient, not that we should put kids in tough situations just because they're so strong and can get through it, but we don't recognize how much we're going through or how much we're carrying until we're forced to stop and take a look at our insides. So
That's
much
right.
is looking at the outside of life, but when we have to pause and look at the hurts and the woundings that we carry along with us without even knowing, then that's when we really get straight with ourselves. So I would say it's when I started doing self-awareness work.
Mm. Isn't that fascinating that, like, even though it was all there, you don't really acknowledge or understand or have awareness of it until you look?
Yeah. And I think that's a great thing about being human is that we do have so much resilience and the body is amazing. And like we can just overcome so much, which I think is a hopeful thing, but it does build up. And until you turn and face it and work through it, I don't believe that healing is as possible or as lovely or as illuminating until you take that good hard look at what's actually going on.
Yeah. And I think it's really nice that you're sharing this because I will take note of your physical appearance. You're beautifully put together. You have a beautiful smile, right? You're one of those people where if people didn't know you had a hard past, they would think she's just got it easy. Look, she's smiling, she's happy, she's lit up, her hair is beautiful, right? All of these things, and yet you still had all of these difficulties and troubles and say it's a hard life.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's one of the things that we're taught is even if you're struggling, you shouldn't look like it. You should keep up appearances. You should look as though you're strong and that you've got things together.
Mm-hmm.
And that's hard to let go of, right? It's hard to let authenticity and vulnerability lead. But I think if you're like me, it's those stories where people are being really real and sharing what's beneath the exterior that feels necessary, that really connects us and encourages us along the way to do our own work so that we can be more authentic too.
Definitely. Yeah. So thank you for being here in this real
Yes.
space and sharing in a real way and letting people, because not everybody can put themselves together to look the part and they
Yeah.
feel like there's something wrong with them because they see people who do look the part. And I like to always stop and pause and acknowledge things like that because I trust that we will have listeners that feel like there's something wrong with me, but not them or not this person or not that person. And the truth is we're all hurting on some level to some degree. We all have that part of us that knows life is hard. So thank you
That's right.
for bringing that up and for making that real, because I do think that will also really help our discussion about these situations where people go quiet or go silent in
Right.
relationships
Yes.
on both sides. Like, to be the receiving end of that and the giving end of that is a real struggle for both people. So I think we're going to get into some really great things here and hopefully have some great insights.
Yeah.
What has this particular topic being one that's near and dear to you? Like, why did you choose this topic? What makes it something worthwhile to talk about for the next however many minutes?
Yeah. Well, honestly, because I'm in a situation currently where someone has cut off communication with me and it's so painful. It
Mm,
brings up wounds of abandonment, of rejection, of having done something wrong, um, and just feeling like I'm not enough in some way. Well, what did I
mm,
do? Is there something that was so terrible that you won't even communicate with me? And even still in this situation, the person and I haven't been able to have a conversation despite my best efforts of being apologetic for whatever it is, because I don't really know what it is. And
mm,
so that can be really difficult because then you're racking your brain for well, was it this? Could it be this? Could it be something that I have a blind spot toward? And you're not really given the opportunity to make amends or to repair the relationship when it's gone radio silent.
That's tough.
Yeah.
And we're here for sure, right on time, because one of the comments from a past episode that I did was a woman who shared, could you please do an episode on what to do when someone else won't forgive you? Right? And that's it's like being in that dark place where you, like you said, you don't really know what your next move is because you're not getting any kind of communication about it. You don't know what you did wrong. You're not sure what you could do next. You're not sure if you can do anything. So it feels almost like you're in a position where you have no control.
I think that's a big
right?
part of it. Yeah.
Right?
And I think that's probably what hit me hardest at first. Like, I'm a doer. I'm somebody who wants to fix things. I want to have the conversation. I want to rebuild. I don't like the feeling of being disconnected from someone I care about. And so all of that stuff, all of the stuff in my own shadow comes straight to the fore when it's like, you don't have control here. So it's amazing what that can bring up in you when that happens.
Right. And what does it bring up in you? I know what it brings up in me when I have no control. What does it bring up? I'll share my next, but what does it bring up in you?
Yeah.
Like that feeling, where you're just like, you're like, there's nothing I can do to fix this, to change this. It's like nothing I do has any kind of bearing on how things go. What does that feel like?
I feel powerless, and I feel honestly angry. And then anger gives way to sadness because I'm usually someone who can figure it out and make something happen.
Right.
And back to powerlessness. So it's a little bit of a cycle, I think.
I'm sure like I know, that every one of these situations that happens like this, like you said earlier, has something to teach us. So I have no doubt that this is like a beautiful, amazing lesson for you. At the same time, I'm sorry you're going through it because I know it hurts. And I go through plenty of my own things like this in my life. But let's get into the actual how we perceive, at least from our point of view, the behaviors of the silence. So what are the types of silence? You use some really great words when we first got in touch about the topic for this podcast, which were avoidance, stonewalling, and silent treatment. And I'd like to just get into, like, are there differences between those three? Let's talk about that. Are they the same thing? Are they different? Do we use them all to mean the same thing? So when you use those three terms, avoidance, stonewalling, and silent treatment, do you feel like they're the same or are they different?
I think maybe avoidance can be the most talkative one. So I think maybe it has to do with degree of conversation that's happening. So I think avoidance might be, maybe you're still engaging with the person. Maybe they live under your same roof and there's necessary communication that has to happen on the daily. Like, could you take out the trash? Yes. And it's one word answers, or it's just enough communication to sort of maintain a polite, okay living situation. Right. So I think maybe, but it's avoiding the issue. It's avoiding having any deep conversations about things that could lead back to the issue or bring up feelings. So I think that would be my definition of avoidance, where there's still conversation happening. But I would say that stonewalling and silent treatment maybe are holding hands. They are very similar to where there's a capability of disconnection. You're not seeing this person all the time. You're able to maintain a distance from this person without it being super awkward, except maybe, so in my situation, my brother is not speaking with me, but he lives out of state. So I'm thinking about the holidays. That may be the next time that we have a chance to be in proximity and engage that way. But on the day to day, we don't see each other anyway. And stonewalling is sort of like, or silent treatment is kind of like you're maybe communicating, one person's communicating, but it's like the words are crashing into a stone wall. And there's a barricade between you and them that is not letting communication either get through. If it's getting through, you don't really know, or come back. So the other person is not communicating back to you.
Yeah, I think that the name stonewalling, I actually looked it up to see its origin and where it came from. And I'm not good with history, so I'm not going to even try to attempt to repeat what I read. But I really liked how it just simply said, it's literally like talking to a stone wall. I mean, that's where we get the phrase. That's what it feels like. It feels like that we can't get through it. There's no movement. There's no acknowledgement. It's just literally a stone wall that we're talking to. And then the silent treatment. Now it's interesting. You said avoidance could happen under the same roof, but so can silent treatment, right? And so can stonewalling. I mean, these all can happen under the same roof, or they can happen not under the same roof. Now, I would say that I have been on both sides of these, and I think that's part of the beauty of where a conversation can go today. Is that usually when I look at situations, I can always, as much as I might detest what someone else is doing, I can find a place if I look for it in my life where I've done the same thing, even if it was to a different degree, or it was for less time or more time or whatever. That's where I always go to try to soften my heart, because otherwise it's so easy to live in this world and just feel
hard,
like you're in like you're in despair, like it's too hard, like where do you go from here? There's no control, there's nothing you can do. So I know what it's like, and to be on both sides, to receive the silent treatment and to give the silent treatment. And this is what I have noticed on my personal journey, is that when I'm the one receiving the silent treatment, my mind tells me different things about why that person is giving it to me than when I'm the one giving it. Meaning like I'm going to explain that. So when someone's giving me the silent treatment, it feels like I'm being dismissed. It feels like I'm uncared about. It feels like I'm unloved. It feels like I'm worthless. It feels like they're trying to prove to me that I'm worthless. Right. So, I mean, and I could go on and on and on. All right. But those are like some of the main core things. Then when I've given the silent treatment, what's going on in my head? I'm not saying any of those things to that other person. What I'm saying is like, I'm literally too hurt to talk. Like I'm literally like, I feel powerless. I feel like I have no control. And I feel like anything I say is going to be hitting a stone wall. And so I just don't know what to do other than to just be silent. I also know that in the past, silent treatment for me is almost like a trauma response. It's like when so much is coming in and I don't know what to do with it, like I literally shut down and just go blank. Like I can't even say anything to myself. Right. It's like I literally just, my voice goes silent because my body somehow needs to process the trauma or whatever I'm going through to get to the other side of it. And talking it's almost like, have you ever heard that it's not great to eat food too close to bedtime because your body can't both digest food and get rest and rejuvenation at the same time? Like it has to devote itself to two separate things. So when in the past, when I've gone into silent treatment mode, it's literally because I'm processing something so heavy that all of my restores need to be dedicated to that. And words are like not even possible.
Yeah.
Do you have similar experience? Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. And I think that it's a practice to be able to, if you know that you have that need to withdraw, to process, because some of us need more processing time than others. Doesn't mean anything about anything other than we need to be internal for a little while. Some people can respond really quickly. It's not always the very best thing that they respond. So sometimes it can be a real gift to take that pause, like you're talking about. A real gift for you to be able to get your thoughts lined up, to regulate your body before you say something that could, cause a really big issue. But I think one thing to practice is to be able to communicate that that's true. Like, I would like to talk to you about this, but I can't do it right now. Could I take a pause here? Some couples even have like a word where it's like, all right, time out, or whatever it is, so that they can give each other the time to process those things. It's not always easy to do that. However, some people we all have different levels of awareness. And so we may not even know what's happening. We're just like, all of a sudden we're on the other side of the house and we've just left the situation because it's all we knew how to do. So I think that's really important that you brought up, understanding yourself and putting yourself in that other person's shoes. Like, okay, they're obviously really dealing with something. And you said my brain starts thinking of what they're thinking. That's such a dangerous place to be.
It is.
I love the question, right? It's like, in the absence of information, we make up the wildest stories, don't we?
Exactly.
Like,
yes.
So I love the question, like, what am I making this mean? That's a question that I try to ask myself when something really hurts because someone has done something and I don't really understand their motivation, but I know how I feel. So what am I making this mean can help you not go all the way to the dark side of they hate me and they think I'm terrible.
Exactly. Yeah. And we also have to understand that you and I have both seemingly done a lot of self-awareness work. And not everybody has. And so a lot of times when we're in these situations, I know for me, what I do is I literally project everything that I am and everything I've been through onto other people, meaning like, oh, I've done this, so surely they have too. Right? I've seen this, so surely they have too. You know, it's real. I'm going to give you a real tangible experience. This has nothing to do with what we're talking about, but when I was younger, I smoked cigarettes. So I started smoking cigarettes at age 14, and I smoked 2 packs a day until I was 26 years old. Wow. So that was 12 years of smoking cigarettes. Okay. I'm a completely different person now, but I did that for 12 years. And obviously I had to quit because I no longer smoke. When I see people smoking now, I'm like, how are they still doing that? Like, it's like in my mind, I think they went through all, like, how are they still there? Aren't they? Didn't they go along this ride with me? Like, how are they still smoking? That's absurd. I have to stop myself and say, no, Gina, like, people aren't on the same track, and just where you were all those years ago, that's where they are now. So have compassion for them. It's not that they're behind or you're ahead. It's like a different track. It's a different track. You know, they're on this track, I'm on this track. And I find that when it comes to these things like we're talking about, I mean, that's like a real physical, I think that will help give the example in everyone's mind. But when it comes to things like this, where it's like, how do they not know that they could just say to me, I'm having a really hard time, I just need a month of silence. Like that can only come from somebody who has that degree of awareness. For somebody that doesn't have that degree of awareness, they literally can't get there. But because we're there, we think they could get there, and they're just keeping it from us.
Right. Yes.
You know, I mean, and this is how mind-blowing life is, because we're all in these little individual journeys, but yet we think everybody else is on the same track.
Yeah. And should know what we have learned.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. And I mean, it's kind of sweet. I mean, it's kind of sweet that that's how we are, meaning like, you know, we think everybody else has done everything we've done. But if I find it gets me into trouble a lot of the time.
Yeah.
And I want to share that just because I'm giving some voice here to the silent treatment, the one who's doing it, or the stonewall or whatever, it doesn't mean that being on the other side of it isn't equally as valid of a frustration, or, you know what I mean? Like, it's not just because we know that it would be nice to see someone act emotionally mature in those situations. It doesn't, just because we have that emotional maturity, it doesn't mean that it's not hard or painful. It's so hard and painful. So I really want to acknowledge you and whoever's on the other side of this. And then like our listeners, whether they're the ones who are giving the silent treatment or getting the silent treatment, it's really important for us all to know that whichever side we're on, our feelings are valid. I always say they're not necessarily true, but they're always valid. They're valid. Yeah. So I just want to acknowledge how hard it is to be on the receiving end of that.
I love that. And I also, along with that, I would say usually the silent treatment, whether you're the giver or the receiver, it says more about you than it does the person that is,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how to phrase that exactly, but like for my brother, he
Mm-hmm.
has things that are happening. And I can either be really angry about that. I can be really judgmental. And I felt all those things. I'm
Mm-hmm.
going to be
Mm-hmm.
real here.
Mm-hmm.
But my highest self recognizes that there are some real struggles happening that don't necessarily mean bad things about me. I'm very easily led to believe terrible things about myself. Okay. Just
Right.
as a
Mm-hmm.
personality thing that I'm consistently working on. So that's the
Mm-hmm.
first place my mind goes. And so I have to really climb back up and say, okay, you're making this mean that. But the truth is, something about him is
Mm-hmm.
happening. Maybe
Mm-hmm.
this is the start of some growth or some healing that needs to happen. And
Mm-hmm.
maybe I get to have a hand in that by letting there be distance, letting there be silence, or being patient and not letting my anger or frustration build in that time, so that if he is ready to talk at some point, I can be someone who welcomes him back instead of
Mm-hmm.
trying to give him a taste of his own medicine or something. Because that's a very human
Exactly.
response too,
It
right?
sure is. Yeah.
And so, yeah, I just think that if we can allow these things to be bridges that we build for understanding, whether or not a relationship is ultimately salvaged,
Mm-hmm.
it can still be a bridge for understanding another
Mm-hmm.
person. And I think we need lots more of that in this world.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I love what you said. I love that you're keeping it real. I love that you said, you feel the whatever it was, the resentment, the hate, the judgment. I mean, I feel all of those. And to me, that's a very normal human response. I mean, I feel it every day, whether it's someone on the road in New Jersey, which is I don't know if it's the same in Kansas, all right, but in New Jersey, driving is a very it's you're really quite a master if you can drive in New Jersey and
Wow.
never have a flare up. Like, I mean, it's an interesting way to judge how far advanced or how not far advanced you are. Okay. All right. So when I'm out driving, right, there's people I hate. Like literally that hate rises up in me. Like that. It's quick. It rises up. It's what I do with it, right? I can't control that rising up. It's a very human thing for it to rise up. When people do things to me in relationships that feel so insensitive, that feel so alienating, that feel so one-sided, right?
Mhm.
That go against everything that I believe good relationships and good communication should be, right? I hate them momentarily.
Yeah.
Like that comes up. And then it's my job to figure out what do I have to do with this hate? What do I
Yeah.
do with this anger? And so I think that's too what we're talking about. Like when you said my mind goes to all these bad things about me, I mean, my mind goes there too. I think most people's mind goes there. What do we do in those moments? So it's interesting because I know this feels really bad for you. It feels really bad for me when it happens. But already I see so much beauty that's coming out of it for you.
Mm.
You know what I mean? Like the fact that
Yeah.
you're having to find a way to not let your mind make it something about you. Like the way that you're saying, okay, how can I exert some level of control here? Because all
Mm.
control isn't bad, but like, how can I use patience as a measure of control? So like I'm
Yeah. That.
seeing lots of beautiful things. I know it doesn't feel beautiful, but
Mm-mm.
like we're seeing how even though you're in this hard spot and it feels hard and terrible and your mind goes to these places, it's also building you up to be stronger.
Yeah. And I appreciate that reminder, because sometimes when you're in the trenches and you're
Mhm.
just having to, bring your mind back from the edge of the cliff repeatedly
Mhm.
over and over every single day, or when you
Mhm.
wake up at 3 a.m. for some odd reason, you can just feel a bit discouraged. But what you said reminds me of that Rumi quote where they say, the wound is the place the light enters you.
Mhm.
And I think that's really, really true, that it's these hard places and the difficulties that we wish didn't happen that
Mhm.
ultimately have the biggest effect on our growth and our development and us actually being humans that can help other humans, navigate life too. So you're right. There's a lot of value to it.
Yeah. And I think back to every hard thing that's happened to me. And those are all the places that initiated my growth. It's like without all those hard things, I would not have climbed the mountains that I have climbed. It's like every single one of those hard things was like another mountain before me. And I know there's going to be many more in my life because I'm not even close to being perfect. I mean, there's no way to get there, but I mean, the pursuit is, I think, what the goal of life is. Not to pursue it in a way where you think you can ever achieve it and getting upset or mad that you don't get there, but meaning like, yeah, I do want to be a master on the road in New Jersey. I do want to see people do horrendous things and not have my feathers ruffled, right? Yeah. I want to get there because wouldn't that be a real peaceful place to be? Wouldn't that be amazing? So I like to think of every hardship that comes my way. And by the way, I recognize the trenches. I am in trenches daily. And I think that's what life is about. You're in the trench and you find a way out of the trench. And you're in the trench the next day and you find a way out of it. So it goes back to what I was saying before about when you present yourself well, people think you have it together and they themselves don't. I'm in trenches all the time. It's just that I'm dedicated to getting out of them.
Yeah.
And it sounds like you are
staying there. Yeah. I am. And I tend to be the person who wants out of the trench immediately. I'm so annoyed that it's our deepest wounds that heal us the most, that we have to go through these things. I am so annoyed at that. Yeah. And it's such a true truth that that's the way it is. And so I want out of the trenches as fast as I can. And so this situation is teaching me patience. It's teaching me how to be with my feelings, whatever they are, that they're not bad or wrong, but they are messengers of information that I need to take a look at. And if I can hold those gently and take the time to be with those, then sometimes they come back a little less yelly the next time, right? They know that they'll be met with compassion. So I think, the training ground of building compassion begins with us, and then hopefully overflows to the people around us as well. I'm definitely better at giving compassion to other people than I am myself, but I think it's a two-way street. You really got to practice both of those things. And these sort of situations are definitely resilience and compassion builders.
They are. Yeah. And I think it's normal for most of us to be more compassionate with others than ourselves. Or what I have found very common in life and in relationships, especially family relationships, is that any one person can be very compassionate, very kind, very social, very friendly with the world at large. But then when it comes to themselves or that one person in their family that reminds them of themselves or reminds them of someone else that maybe caused them trauma, right? It's themselves and that one other person that get it all. Right. It's like they get that version of that person, the non-compassionate, hurtful, name calling, whatever it is. And then everybody else gets this put together version that the world sees as so put together. So, I mean, this is a really common human tendency. It's a really common human trait to hate parts of ourselves and that one person that reminds us of ourselves or reminds us of the things we don't want to look at or avoid. But then to put on a different face and have almost like a completely different personality with the rest of the world. So when I hear, the world of psychology, for example, talk about people with multiple personalities, right? Or they have different names for it now. I'm not a psychologist. I'm certainly not speaking in that realm, but I say, isn't it interesting? To me, everyone I know has multiple personalities. Like I've never met one with one personality. I mean, and that could just be because I get to see people on different levels and not everybody else does. I don't know. But to me, this is not a mental health exception. This is the norm. This is the norm. Everyone I know has more than one personality, including me, right? Including, like, think about it. When I stop recording, when I hit stop recording here, I usually go like, a little sigh. Why do I do that? Because I'm not fully the same person when I'm recording and when I'm not.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Right?
I get that. And, we've got our work self, we have our home self, we have our home for the holidays self. That phenomenon when you go and you're back around family members, it's interesting how different things come up that you haven't dealt with all the rest of the year. So I think you're definitely correct about those different personalities that we bring to different spaces in our lives.
Yeah. And so
Mm-hmm.
when someone is stonewalling me or giving me the silent treatment or avoiding me, what I do is I feel the hurt, I feel the pain because it does hurt so much. I feel the
Yeah.
pain, I feel the hurt, and I say, okay, what's my mountain here? Like, what's my mountain here? Like, how do I not turn this into a perpetual valley? Like, what's my mountain to climb here? How do I climb it? And then trust and pray. I mean, I'm big into prayer, meaning like always praying for that other person,
Mm-hmm.
because I actually find that that's a way to really soften my heart and soften forgiveness for people. There's lots
That's
of
good.
tips and tricks to forgive, but something that I really like to do is to look at a picture of them. You know, when you're really angry with somebody and you look at a picture of them, it almost like disgusts you. You're like, ugh, I
It
don't even want to
does.
see them. My stomach hurts. Like, it literally, you have a physical reaction. You just want to not look at that picture. So what I do is I look at that picture and I pray for them. I look and meaning like that they're just a character in life, meaning they're not connected to me. I kind of drop the like me and them thing for a moment and I just look at that picture and I say a prayer. And I do that every day. I just look at the picture and I say a prayer. I just look at meaning I feel the disgust that comes up in me. I feel the like hardness where I want to turn away. But then after some time of doing that, whether it's a week, it's a month, it's a year, I start to notice that like I literally genuinely feel love toward them when I look at that picture and no longer the hate, even though they're still doing the same things or behaving the same way or still giving me the silent treatment or whatever it is, right? It's like that all changes. And I think those are mountains, like those are mountains for us to climb.
Whew. I don't want to respond to that because that's so challenging.
It
It's
is.
really challenging. And I think it's a challenge I need to accept. So,
Mm,
right here in real
it's a
time, because
mountain.
it's a mountain. I love that terminology because it's a mountain for me. And I'm thinking of our family calendar that I make every year. And
That's so
when the
nice.
month came along, I put a post-it note over that person.
I know. I get it.
So that's a mountain I still need to come to terms with. You're right,
I
but
get it.
prayer does soften your heart. Or even like if you're not someone who prays, just like even just sending love to that person or,
Mhm.
wanting something good for that person instead of
As a second,
revenge.
yeah, as a second step, Dani, because the first step, like if it feels so hard to get to that second step right away, the first step is to like look at it for 1 second, turn away and feel what your body's feeling, meaning
Yeah.
acknowledge where you're at, like before you even start praying
Yes.
for them. Because I'm a big believer in like not forcing, but like working with like whatever, like if you're going to climb a mountain, you can't just catapult yourself to the top. You
Got
got
to
to take the
train.
first step. You got to
Mm-hmm.
take the first step, right? So that training, that first step is like you saying, isn't it interesting when I look at this picture, I literally feel like throwing up.
Mm.
And that's my body going through something, and how can I be
Yes.
here with that part of my body? How can I be here with my experience without making it right or wrong? It just is what it is. But then I'm going to turn to this tomorrow and just for 1 second, just again feel what that feels like, right? Just
Yeah.
1 second. So like go slow, don't force. I think the force is always force always pairs up with resentment. It's like you can't force something and not have resentment about it. So it's got
That's
to it's
really
got to go
true.
naturally, right? So just honor where you're at, honor your feelings, honor the fact that the post-it note is there. Don't
Yes.
even take it off at first. Just peek underneath it and be like, what do I feel like looking at this person?
That's great advice. That is great
Yeah.
advice. Because I'm good at forcing myself to do things, but yeah,
Hmm.
resentment's right there.
Exactly.
Good
Yeah. I mean,
advice.
yeah, we've talked about so many amazing things in this short time, right? It's like what we're talking about is so human.
Mm,
And
Yes.
it's also really courageous of you, of me, of anybody who's looking at these things in their life, because a lot of people do the avoidance. A lot of people have these things in their life, but they just avoid, avoid, avoid. Like they don't let themselves feel the nauseousness. You know, they don't let themselves feel the hurt. They don't let themselves feel the pain. It gets sealed up and they move on and they soldier through, and they never have these kinds of real conversations about it. So it's really courageous that we're here having this conversation about this for anyone in the world to come and take part in.
Yeah, I really appreciate being able to talk through it because I think that we often want to escape our humanity. We like things
Mm-hmm.
to just go smoothly. And when we get to talk about how hard it is to be human, how hard it can be to communicate. Honestly, being in relationship with other humans and ourselves might be the biggest challenge of just existing.
It is,
So, but
for sure.
if there are spaces for us to unpack that and to understand that we're not alone, that's a huge
Mm-hmm.
gift.
It really is a gift.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I think you've given listeners a big gift today just by sharing some of your story,
Thank
and for sharing how hard it is. And even for you to say, like, oh, I think that's a mountain for me right now, but it's
you.
not necessarily one I want to climb. Like, I see the
Right.
mountain before me, but I'm not like, yes, let's get to the top. I'm like, oh, I don't want to climb this mountain, because that's how I feel a lot in my life. You know, it's like, oh, for me, it's, I talk to God a lot. So it's like, okay, God, you've given this mountain before me. Like, I don't want to climb it, but it's
Mm-hmm.
here. So I got to face it somehow. I'm just going to
Mm-hmm.
sit. You know, years ago, I went to Yosemite National Park. Have you been there in California?
I haven't, but it's on the list of places I go next.
Okay, so I went to Yosemite. It's a beautiful, beautiful park. And before I went with my sister, this was decades ago. And before we went there, she said to me, you know, she's a big hiker, far more than I am, but I used to hike a lot when I was younger. And she said, you know, I've talked to somebody who went to Yosemite, and they, Half Dome is the big hike that
Yes.
everybody wants to do there,
Yeah.
right? She said, and I've talked to somebody who it's 5,000 feet above the valley floor. So you climb quite a bit. And if you're going to do it in one day, it's a long trip. It's about 17 or 18 miles round trip, and it's fairly steep. And so she said somebody got to the last 700 feet and then they didn't finish. I'm like, that's absurd. Why would anybody not do the last 700 feet? Well,
That's the hardest.
when I got to that place, I said, oh, I get it. Like I totally get it. That last 700 feet, which I don't even think you can still do without a permit. Back then you didn't need a permit, but I think now, from what I've heard, is you need a permit to climb that last 700 feet. I literally had my sister, boom, right up. I mean, that's just who she is. She like nothing rattles her at all. So I'm like, I need to sit here, like at the base of this last 700 feet, and just take this in for as long as I need to take it in before I even decide if I'm going to do that. So I sat there for probably, I don't know, maybe at least an hour. And I found someone else who was sitting at the base with me. I mean, not with me. I didn't know who this person was, but she was also sitting at the base. And we just had a conversation, and we both talked about our fear about climbing this, because it's a treacherous 700 feet. I mean, not
Yes.
just the fact that it's treacherous, but if you have any kind of concern about heights or fear of heights, it's like the worst thing. You would never want to do it. So we both talked, and we both talked a little bit about our fears, and we both decided to do it together. And we did it together, right? But we had to sit. I mean, that's why what that brought this to mind is, like, I didn't get there and, like my sister, just say, well, that's it, I'm going. I sat there and I said, I don't want to do this. I don't want to do this. But if I don't do this, what's it going to feel like tomorrow? Am I going to be like, oh, I should have done that. Now I got to make another trip back to Yosemite before I do this. So I weighed those two things out, and I weighed a lot of other things out too. And then I decided it's worth it. I'm going to go for it. Now, at the age I am now, I do not think that would be a good idea. I think my heart would give out. I mean, because it was that intense. But back then, somehow I survived it. But that's what it's like. It's like there's this mountain before me. It's
Yes.
scary. It feels treacherous. I have all this fear. I don't want to do it. I kind of wish I wasn't even in this situation, but here I am. And so let me just sit here and figure things out before I even take that next step.
Yeah. That's a great, great metaphor for the difficulties that are before us that we don't think that we can do. And it's often not that we can't do them. It's just that we haven't done them before, and we need to prepare to do the hard things. Unless you're like your sister, which
I know,
sounds
right?
like my husband. He would be like that too. And that's on our list. He wants to climb El Cap at my age. So
wow,
we'll see what happens that last 700
now
feet,
that's a different El Capitan is the one that they rock climb. That's the rock climb. Half Dome is the one that you can get up without rock climbing.
Yes,
you can use your feet. You don't need ropes. Okay.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's exceptional. I hope you guys do go. And if you do get to the top, you'll have to let me know. You'll have to send a picture. And if you don't, there's no shame in it, because honestly, I completely understood why my sister told me that story about someone not doing that last 700 feet.
Because it's okay. Yeah. In relationship, I'm trying to think, how does that apply to relationship? If you sit at the base of the mountain, sometimes there could be a boundary where you don't cross it. You don't do the last 700 feet for some reason or another. I want to hold space for that. I don't think that's true in my circumstance, but it could be very true in another situation where there's been some terrible things that have gone on or some traumatic events that have happened, and you need to boundary yourself against those last 700 feet. You're sitting at the base of the mountain thinking it would be the right thing to do, but then there's something on your heart that understands that maybe the boundary's there for a reason. So I always, when we're talking about relationships and rebuilding and all of that, there are times when that's not actually the best thing for either party. So sometimes we don't climb that last 700 feet, but I think that the sitting there and considering it and really spending the time to understand and listening to what God is telling you regarding the situation is really key.
Yeah. And I love that you said that. If you decide it's best to not go that 700 feet and turn around and go home, and that's what's going to give you the peace the next day, then that's what you do. Right. So for me, it was like, no, if I go home and there's not going to be peace about it, I'm going to want to come back here. But like I also said, I wouldn't do it today. I don't think my heart could withstand that. I literally don't. So I would have to put a boundary on it today. Or maybe I would say, you know what, I'll climb up 10 steps and then I'm going to turn around and that's it. And I'll come back down. And if then I want to go up 20 steps, I will. But if I won't, I'll be happy with the 10, right? So I think this talk about boundaries is key. And something that I like to think about in terms of boundaries is a boundary is something that we put in place for the good of both people. Right. So like when it comes to relationships.
Yeah.
So it's like a lot of times people think a boundary is just to protect me. Right. But it's really to protect both people. And so when we're coming up with what that boundary is, it's such a good measure to say, is this boundary in the best interest of both of us? Does it somehow protect both of us? And does it somehow invite both of us into a higher standard of relationship? Even if that means no talking. Because sometimes no talking is a better option to talking in a way that's hurtful.
Yes. 100% agree. Yeah. I love that.
Anything that you feel like it would be fun or interesting, or anything that's like on your heart or in your mind that you haven't shared that you would love listeners to know?
I think maybe the last thing I want to say is what you began with, related to most of us can put ourselves together to do life, to look a certain way, to show up. And I think it really would be beneficial to say again that we're all going through things. We all have relationships. And so the more relationships we have, the more conversation we have, the more opportunity those can slide off the rails sometimes. And I think that just to understand that your fellow human that you're doing life with is also going through a lot can help you lift up that Post-it note and send loving thoughts towards that person in your life that you have issues with.
But towards towards you first, towards
me first, right? Towards yourself first. And yeah, I think so. You're right.
Mm-hmm.
Making sure that you're understanding your own feelings and naming them and not projecting them. And you made me feel this way. That those things are really important methods of understanding yourself, and that will make you a better person to be in relationship with overall.
That's really beautiful. Yeah, I love that you shared that. And what I want to just make clear for you, for listeners, for me, when I say for you first, like I do believe that we are supposed to hold others up above us, meaning like it's not always supposed to be me, me, me. But when I say for you first, it goes back into that like not forcing thing. Because I've seen too many people try to force love or peace or prayers on someone else, but they're not acknowledging their own feelings. So there's always lingering resentment. It never actually clears. So when I say like for you first, or for me first, or for the next person first, it's so that we can acknowledge where we are. It's not to like put ourselves up here, like, oh, I'm first. It's to say, no, I have real feelings about this. I feel like throwing up when I look at this person. That's a real feeling, and I've got to acknowledge that. And then second, how do I acknowledge that feeling? And then send them a prayer. Right. And then just look at their picture for 2 seconds tomorrow instead of 1 second.
Challenge accepted.
And that's awesome. And we're all doing it. Like I'm doing it, Dani. You know what I mean? Like I do this stuff every single day. The amount of hard relationships that this world has placed before me is more than I can count. And so some days it's just a matter of like, which one do I have the time to deal with today? Like I can't deal with them all every day. I have to like pick one, and the next day it might be the same one. It might be a different one. There's so many, and it's so hard. So I love that we talked about that. I love that you were willing to be vulnerable and share how hard life is. And I think that is a real blessing for listeners to know that it's hard for you. It's hard for me. And so therefore, whatever they're going through that's hard is they're in good company. Like they're not alone.
Together.
We're in this
together.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I love that. Well, this has been really a special conversation. I'm so happy that you came for it. I would love to see you come back in 6 months where we can have a part 2 to stonewalling avoidance or this mountain. Hey, maybe you'll have been to Yosemite by then.
Oh my gosh. I need to train more than 6 months worth, I think.
Yeah. Well, I hope that. Oh, that's awesome. And there's no pressure. I mean, like if you decide in 6 months you're not coming back, that's fine. But I think it would be so fun to have the follow-up, to see what's happened in your life in 6 months after this conversation, because we'll both be 6 months, hopefully wiser by then.
I love that.
Hopefully, that's all we can hope for. All right. Well, it's been beautiful talking, and I thank you. And I invite our listeners, say it straight to yourself. Journal prompt delivery system is something that I've been offering these past couple of months, and members love it. What they get is a journal prompt in their email inbox every morning, along with a beautiful nature picture that I've taken, because I love taking pictures and pairing that in with some thought-provoking questions. And the feedback that I've gotten is these questions help members to go deeper. It helps them to tap into parts of themselves that they would not tap into, for the simple reason that they would never ask themselves these questions. These questions help you get to know yourself more, because when you say it straight to yourself, right, that's like we've been talking about in this whole podcast. When you say it straight to yourself, when you acknowledge your feelings, when you acknowledge your sick stomach, when you think about that person that's done X, Y, or Z to you, then you can say it straight to them. You can say it straight to the world. You have to say it straight to yourself first before you can say it straight to them. If that's something that you're interested in, getting that daily journal prompt every day, Monday through Friday, weekends off, I'll have that link in the show notes. I wish you a wonderful rest of your day or evening. Thank you for being part of this conversation and for reflecting in whatever way you would like to on what my beautiful guest Dani has shared with us. What this podcast has come to mean or be. I wish you well. Thank you so much, Dani. It was an absolute pleasure, and I'm going to look forward to seeing you in 6 months.
Yay! See you then.